And yeah, today you again me this topic on sustainability and partnerships in of working with the villages. This is an important initiative under the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, and the principles behind this, how to especially to address some of the most important challenges faced, especially in the rural areas, in the villages today, right from this climate change and the poverty, the developmental challenges, the drought. Even the most developed countries are also not an exception now from drought. So there are like including the degradation of soil and soil organic carbon and the sustainable livelihoods in the villages, and all these things why they are very much relevant for our own existence. Traditionally, we had been mostly focused on the rural areas because most of the population was dependent on rural livelihoods. But as the urbanization is happening and technology is replacing the human resources, and slowly we are deviating from rural to urban, our dependency, although we say that the contribution of the rural areas to GDP is very less, but in fact, we are undervaluing the services or the products from the rural areas, and that is one of the reason. Otherwise, without the support of the rural areas, especially the food security and many other things related around food, uh, I think this fact we cannot ignore now, at least in this present context of the global challenges related to food security. That is one of the most important aspects. And with climate change, I think the vulnerabilities are there everywhere. So with the rural areas also, and the kind of agriculture models that we have developed around intensive agriculture using all kinds of the pesticides or chemicalization of agriculture, or the fertilizers which are synthetic or artificially produced, or including GMO level interventions. I think this has wiped out the self-sustaining nature, the Gram Swaraj, which Gandhiji used to say. I think we have moved from self-sustaining villages to dependent villages, and that is one of the challenging things now. I am speaking mostly in the context of India, but otherwise globally also we have similar challenges in other countries also. So this is the I always say, if rural areas are contributing for the development of the nation or even supporting urban areas, then what the urban areas are contributing to the rural areas. Imagine if we had the lockdown situation for villages and there was no milk coming, no vegetable coming, and no farmer is let to go to the field, because in this pandemic, if you have not allowed an urban person not to go out, then the human beings are the same. Then why you have allowed the rural communities to get exposed and then still work for you? I think the relationship that we have with rural communities is not a kind of honorable relationship. It is not, I don't think the self respect of the communities living in rural areas, I think it is at the lowest level because of the kind of our attitude of our policies, that the government thinks we are giving so many things free to the farmers, including now the cash transfer systems are there to farmers, are giving free seeds, but we have never protected the livelihoods of the rural communities or given the right price to the produce. You only auctioned, and you have never looked into the what is MRP of a produce. So I think this particular relationship and the current challenges that we have in rural areas, that is basically because of compulsory education. All the rural communities and their children, they are educating. It is very simple. They are producing something to for somebody else somewhere. They are educating their children to serve somewhere, not in the rural area. It means no school teaches that agriculture is a honorable job and you can live happily by doing agriculture, because we know the situation. It is no more that kind of scenario. So, in this present context, I think the total and why even urban people, they can also get into agriculture. They can also serve community. They can also work at the grassroots level, but they will never come down. Then the rural, the children are also getting educated and they are serving somebody else somewhere, and their contribution is not linking to the rural development. So, in the present context, the traditional knowledge, wisdom, or the skills of the farming communities have become irrelevant also. Let us say the seed. It is in the hands of few corporates, global corporates. And the whole agriculture input systems, they are also highly profitable. Input systems are profitable, not the outputs, because they will never compromise on the MRP of their selling those fertilizers or seeds or the technologies, a tractor, or the different types of tools that they are introducing, or even the retail sellers, they are not compromising. See, some of the largest companies in India, they might be interested to buy produce from farmer and sell it in the as a retail, but they are not interested to right from production to selling, because they know the margin that they are getting in a day or within 48 hours, that is very very high, because they are cheating the rural communities. So that is happening. The middlemen we always say, but we are not protected by any means, including the labor laws have no relevance to a farmer. The farmer will work in the rain, sun, even if they are working more hours, there is no restriction. Whereas we have protected the industrial labors. So I think in this context, now coming to the how we can partner with rural communities, how do we bring sustainable development even in the villages. Even the sustainable development goals, they start with poverty, and then second goal is food security and agriculture. These are very essential. That's why they are goal number 1 and 2. Then in the rural areas, these two are very very important aspects. Yes, the highest poverty is there in the rural areas only, in the remote areas only. Then even to address that, some of our own programs and schemes, they are not supportive to the agriculture per se. They are helping the rural communities, even the landless communities, to get some work and survive. But they are not making the things productive or supportive to the farmers. farmers are from all communities. They could be from tribals, SCs, STs, BCs, like that. Everybody they can be. Even a person having 1 acre land or anything they start with, they are trying to sustain themselves. So I think somewhere the government schemes and programs also need to get redefined for because as I said, when wheat is not being exported, even the richest countries are feeling threatened, and they are requesting other countries to export the wheat. With a small situation like the war, or let us say the recent floods in some countries devastated, or the drought in some countries. I think all these small things it appears, but globally we are so related and networked with our trade, international trade, and all that. I think anything anywhere happens globally now, it will impact many people. So let's say oil, especially in India. When Indonesia they said we don't export oil, then definitely what we faced in 1985 onwards sometime, especially the edible oil. So again, selecting those crops and trying to encourage farmers to become self-sustainable and all that, that's a big challenge. So like that, we all are related. So I think now, whether it is urban people or corporates or governments or private, public, including educational institutions, I think our children, when they are being educated, we should make them aware of this relationship with the rural communities. That is where our partnership that comes, where we agree to cooperate because our interest is mutual. It is not that somebody, if they don't produce, even our life will be affected. Enough grains or food. So everybody, the businesses, and with this kind of climate change and inflation, recession, and the corona and pandemic, following pandemic, all this I think has created a very vulnerable situation globally and locally, regionally, nationally, and I think the farmers they can sell anywhere, it is said, but I think that is not easy. Even if we say any occupation in India, the farmers who committed suicide are the highest because of their vulnerable situation, and including the supportive systems like insurance and other things, and they are not they go with the policies of the government and other will and other thing. So I think these things need to be like index based insurance system and all that. I think they are very very critical. So in this regard, I think our partnerships and trying to address these challenges, especially institutions. Say the mission of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is very noble and it's very good, with IIT Delhi leading this. I think here many colleges they don't know how to get connected. They are doing some activity and they're telling it's fine. We have done something. We also have few villages uh, like that. But actually, by connecting to rural areas, you are getting connected to many aspects like humanity. That is one of the fundamental things. Humanness. Even technology and humanness are very, very important. Second, you are also getting connected to the nature. Say the soil, water, air, the plants, the biodiversity, whatnot, everything. You are getting connected to the whole. And any student's life will be more meaningful, not by just working in some corporate company and thinking that I have completed my life and I have done some earning and it's okay. No. I think themselves getting connected to this earth, the sustainable issues, the biggest global challenges, and trying to reset their common goals to work towards them. I think these are very, very critical. Somewhere we need to encourage them to set their goals for the earth sustainability. So, in this regard, I think the science society and within that the environment, these are very, very important. So, the colleges playing the role of mentoring and participating, and especially the faculties I have seen, although they might be teaching purely technical things, but some are very, very interested in the real challenges. And like NCC, NSS, and many other programs, I think bringing the students and getting connected them to these grassroots level activities is very, very essential. And altogether, this also makes them or their life also more meaningful in the whole process. So here again, I would like to add few things where I think the universities, institutions, and technology can bring in for especially for the sustainable partnership, the technology. Now it is not the hard way of life; it is the smart way of life because many technologies are supporting us to become smarter. But hard way of life and with smartness will definitely help them to come or be above this vulnerable situation, and they could sustain themselves better. So the farmers now, let us say simplest example, the YouTube videos on agriculture, we have highest viewership. The farmers are trying to learn so many things. They may not have degrees, but the kind of learning that is happening in a farmer's life, right from the weather, climate, any new crops, new varieties of seeds, how many varieties are there, which is better, what is suitable for their environment, what are the market prices. So all the things they are learning, and they are trying to exist. So the variable factors which are around a farmer are many, many. So I think in this regard, if we can, I mean to say the institutions bringing up the both technologies or some softwares or some decision making support tools to communities, it will be very good. The community and individuals to make the smart decisions using smart technologies, communications, innovation. This is very essential. So here, let us say I will try to introduce certain things. Internet has penetrated very much into rural areas, and the cost of the bandwidth and all this has improved. Even the 5G devices are there, and we have very good access to internet. Penetration is very good, and globally that's happening, and so with the farmers and rural communities too. So, but how this internet is helping the farming communities in making better decisions? How we are integrating, let us say, weather parameters or the satellite imageries or the climate change aspects, the market or availability of some inputs. So, I think there are so many things which we can bring in through these platforms. So, we have very good potential, and there is a need to map the villages based on the vulnerability. I think this is based on exposure, sensitivity, and adaptive capacity of the farmers. I think all these things, our technologies, especially using GIS, MIS, we could create some better applications to define these vulnerabilities And our planning, the national plans can all be focused based on these vulnerabilities. See, in any geographical area, the villages which are accessible are always having better facilities, but the remote areas, the border villages, I think they are always they are deprived, and they are highly vulnerable. So I think by mapping them, we can always bring those things, and here we could play an important role. And education, yes, with this corona, we have seen how this online education has penetrated, and how many children could adopt, even school children could adopt. And I think we can provide better education, because sometimes the limitations of a good teacher or a particular teacher, subject teacher, not present. I think now children should be given the multiple options. And with the national education policy, I think we have very huge potential to integrate choice-based credit systems and multidisciplinary. And I think this gives lots of freedom. I think how to integrate SDGs into school curriculum, which where I am working with a team here. So how do we create some activities not based on knowledge and awareness or something, but based on the sensitization of the children. The sensitization is beyond knowledge and awareness. So by giving certain practical experiences and projects or activities, definitely the children can be sensitized. Say poverty, give 80 rupees to a kid and ask them to plan a day how they are going to survive. It is not so easy to imagine a poverty, but definitely when they start looking at details and they get exposed to these real situations, I think they'll understand. Then climate smart agriculture is one big area. I think this otherwise smart agriculture, I think in these villages, smart technologies introduction and climate information services, then index based insurance, then local adaptation plans, including something like biochar, and which can address carbon sequestration and many other things. So, but also looking into the scaling up factors like policies and involvement of other private public sectors. So, like this, we can help the farmers to adapt to this global challenge. And we could although they have some applications to know the price produced, but it is not so transparent. I think by we have some markets linked IT services, but for some commercial crops like cotton and other things it is there, but not for all the crops. So we need to develop the smart applications for right price of for produce, as well as the market prices, how they change with season and all this. I think it is very much possible. I think governments and institutions with partnership with CSR, I think we need to develop all these things. So definitely this will help a lot. Then agriculture commodities rates, live streaming, live web streaming of agriculture markets, because the seeing that is believing, and market information networks. So I think we can all improve them, but only few markets are linked like that, and making them self-sustainable in many aspects. Let us say the fertilizer, which is with increasing the petroleum, all kinds of prices, it is a very big threat for agriculture, especially production of urea. It will be very very difficult with gas or any other thing not available. I think how to make them self-reliant in their production of fertilizers. We have some solutions, as I was telling before, like biochar, where I was working. I think we can introduce them and self-reliant in those aspects. So local pesticide they can produce with some materials locally available like that. Then one of the critical things is schools. I think the role of children is not just studying and someday getting out of a village and serving somebody somewhere. No, not like that. While studying, why can't we develop the schools as labs serving the local communities? Let us say, why can't they test their local soils? Anybody farmer brings, or because most of the children, their parents are farmers. I think here we can bring that support from higher institutions to these villages in enabling them to establish these laboratories for including water quality testing, soil testing, even water budgeting aspects, and biodiversity studies, and keeping that registers on biodiversity, even carrying capacity of a region, and environmental and social impact assessment of various interventions happening in a particular village, and maintenance of monitoring systems. Let us say we could, I have trained some government school children on establishing the sensors in their irrigation canals, and where they could live monitor. So repairing the sensors, that has become very costly with Arduino and many ultrasonic sensors, and with cameras and all that. I think we can always introduce these things, and the maintenance service can take place even at school level. There is nothing wrong, and data analysis and decision support things also we can look into. So these all these things we can train. So these are very much possible things, and I was working on a project called eSagu, where IT enabled agro advisory services, which we provided to different types of farmers who are cultivating particular crops, let us say cotton, chilies, like the different crops, including fishy culture, like that, aquaculture and all that. So this helped many farmers in many villages, and now we have many apps in this regard, and many others are also under CSR. They are supporting. That's good. So, but these things can also be improved further with artificial intelligence and another things we can bring in. I think that will support more. Then, right from moisture, soil moisture is a very big thing which supports our agriculture. I think here again some sensors and other technology we can bring in, and this is very critical for the choice of crops, because the especially erratic monsoons and variability, with climate variability, I think not happening in right time. The shift is happening. So all these things which can be addressed, and which we can support the farmers in irrigation, and we can always improve the irrigation efficiency by irrigation scheduling. So these things can be linked together to their smartphones, because almost all farmers are having smartphones nowadays. So this will enable them. So, and solar powered systems supporting their irrigation through groundwater, or many other things are happening now. So this thing also we can support with the technology. Yes, drones or kitoons, these are some things which we can bring in by keeping about 360-degree cameras in a village. We can monitor the whole village with infrared cameras and all that. When we have so many hundreds of cameras in urban areas for our securities, why can't we use